Okay, in this video we're going to be talking about the concept of absolute reference. In the last video we reviewed what we are used to, which is what's called relative cell referencing, which is what we learned in the first chapter without you really realizing it. And then I introduced the concept in the last video. So, and we learned that with relative cell referencing, basically the formula changes as you copy it down or fill it down. The reference changes, relatively speaking. So in this scenario here, you can see I've set it up so that we have 4 items: dress, pants, shirt, and shoes, and each one has a certain amount that we've paid. And what I want to do is I want to calculate the tax that we're paying on each item. So I want to multiply the amount times the tax rate, which in this case is 7%. So every formula always starts with equal. I use my mouse, I click on D5, I do times, and then I click up here on cell F2. I'm done creating the formula, so I hit the enter key. Okay, so I now have D5 times F2. And if I fill this down, which seems like the quick way to do things, let's just see what happens. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to double click the fill handle, and I notice that I have 0, 0, 0, and I'm looking at that going, I know 35 times 7% is not 0, so what's wrong? So I come back to look at the formula because that's always the key. So I can either look up here in the formula bar. If I double click, I can see the formula right here in the cell. And I see that what happened was it was referencing D5. So when I filled it down one, D5 became D6, which is in fact what we want. We want D6. And then times, we wanted to times F2, but look what happened. We filled it down one, so the 2 became a 3, right? Because the row reference went from increased by 1, basically. We went from here to here, which increased the row reference that was F2 to F3. And we don't want it to be F3. We want it to stay F2. We want it to absolutely always reference cell F2. So what we have to do is we have to change the way our cell is referenced in cell E5. So I'm going to go back up to my formula here in cell E5. I'm going to double click again. And you could be doing this up on the formula bar as well. It's just more visible for you guys if I do it here in the cell. So I don't want to change the reference for D5 because I want D5 to increase to D6, D7, and D8. But I do want to always have it reference cell F2 regardless of where I copy this formula to. I always want it to multiply by F2. I always want it to absolutely reference that cell. So the way this is done is there's a function key on your keyboard. Now, the function keys are running across the top row of your keyboard, F1, F2, F3, F4. And if you have a laptop, in some cases, you might need to hit the FN key in order for the function key to work, okay? If you have just a regular keyboard, then you can just hit the F4 key and it will be fine. You need to know your own keyboard. But basically, what will happen here, watch when I hit F4, it surrounds my cell of F2 because I was clicked in it with these dollar signs. So I get $F, $2, which is basically freezing the column reference, which is F, and the row reference, which is 2. Okay, so, and we'll learn in a little bit about how you can kind of cycle through. Or I guess I could show it to you now. If you continue to hit the F4 key, watch what happens. This one freezes just the row. $2 will freeze just the row reference. That's actually what we call a mixed reference, which we'll learn about in the next video. Okay, this one freezes the column reference, which is $F, but not the row, which is not what we want. And then this hitting F4 again brings us back to just your relative cell referencing. So by cycling through, hitting that F4 key multiple times, it just keeps bringing you through each of those scenarios. So you want $F, $2. So I'm going to hit enter. Okay, I've committed my formula now is D5 times $F, $2. Now, just so you know, you could actually type the $ in front of the F and in front of the 2, and that would work as well. It's just that the F4 key is a little bit quicker. All right, so now I need to refill this down. So I'm going to fill this back down. I'm going to see what happens. So now you can see it kept the reference. So the absolute reference kept it F2. It changed D5 to D6, which is what I wanted. And then I'm going to go down and check this one. Sure, D7, right? Perfect. And D8, perfect. Okay. Now, some of you might be saying, well, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just type in D5 times 0.07 and fill that down. Wouldn't that work? Yes, you would get the same answer. However, this is a smarter way of doing things because now if the tax rate changes, right, I can simply just come up to here and say, okay, now the tax rate is 6%, and boom, all of these have changed, okay? I don't need to go find everywhere that I'm referencing 0.06 in a formula. By doing it this way and putting it in a cell and referencing that cell, I can just change it in one place and all of the other formulas will change, which is kind of nice. All right, so hopefully you might need to watch this more than once. Absolute reference is something that a lot of students kind of struggle with, but it really is sort of a nice, smart feature, and it is something you're definitely going to need to know for this chapter. Okay, so just remember the F4 key is your absolute reference key, and the $ in front of the F freezes the column, and the $ in front of the 2 or the row reference freezes the row. Okay. And I didn't want to, in this case, I didn't want to absolute reference D5 because when I filled it down, I wanted D5 to change to D6, D7, and D8. Okay. Always keep in mind the letter references the column, the number references the row. So if you're filling down, it's going to change the row reference. If you're filling to the right this way, it's going to change the column reference. So it's going to move relative to the direction that you're copying or filling it in. Okay, hope that makes sense. I'll see you in the next video.